Hello everyone, today we're looking at 007 Goldeneye. Man, this really brings me back. This was definitely the game that basically everyone was playing at the time. And what's really interesting is for, the development of first-person shooters, this wasn't really a Doom clone or anything, but it was basically Rare's take on the FPS genre. And it's really amazing just how insanely talented Rare was back in the 90s. I forgot, of course, they made platformers like Banjo-Kazooie and all these other games, but I forgot they also made a very competent, first-person shooter. And again, this is technically a licensed game, I guess, but I don't really think of it as a licensed game because GoldenEye is just such a different beast from the movie itself and in general. Just the amount of things that are present in this game are just very, very different. Also, how they structure the levels and everything, the explosions, the sound effects. There's a very distinct 007 GoldenEye ricochet sound effect, the explosions, the item swapping. Hell, even the main menu for this game is really goes intense and really hard and with the aesthetics. And it's a very strange FPS because you'll kind of automatically lock on roughly, but it's up to you to make the final adjustments for when you actually fire your weapon. And it's just really cool how it works, how it feels very smooth and also very clunky at the same time. It's very hard to describe unless you've played it. And so the levels aren't very hard at all. You basically get a series of weapons. You go through the level. You might have to press a few buttons or get a secondary objective, but mostly you're just running and gunning your way through this game as fast and as safely as you can. There's a good array of weapons from pistols to AK-47s and other things like that. Rocket launchers and grenades. And it's funny how this was considered to be like the next big step in first-person shooters. I think that one of the main reasons for that is one, it was running on an N64, so it was not very, large at all, at least comparatively to other games at the time. And the other thing about it too was that I guess the local multiplayer, the fact that, you can actually play multiplayer around with your friends and whatever on the N64, it was like a big shift. And that's how, the era of screen watching really, came into being, how people would, love sitting together, shooting each other and, going around the map and just, blasting each other off and having a really great time of it. You also get different gadgets in this game as well as, like a laser key and a detonator and like all these other things that you need specifically for that level. And again, they're not a huge amount of levels. It's a very typically short game, but it's very, very fun. And again, it's just so amazing how smooth it is. One thing I saw recently was that how well this game is actually coded is that, a lot of early N64 games, they have a lot of what you would say, like geometry gaps or gaps in the geometry of when you're going, into an area and you can clip through walls and stuff. And it's funny that apparently in the history of GoldenEye speedrunning, it essentially is this. I don't even know what to call it, but basically you cannot flip out of this game. Someone's only ever done it once in the history of the speedrunning. So this is a very, I guess, well-made game, essentially, is what the point is. Again, the voices and faces, I guess they took some kind of scans and like dropped it onto like the characters' models or something, which is why I get this weird uncanny effect. Again, I love, the sound effects of this game. They're very iconic. The gameplay, again, feels really smooth, really well made. The simple environments are very fun to kind of just go through, and you can even sneak around more or less in this game, which is, the stealth in this era is pretty rare in general. Again, the sounds of the firefights, they're just very iconic, and if you play this game today, you probably won't be as impressed. Obviously, but it is interesting to see how, like, it's a decent game for sure, but it's interesting to see how far FPS has come and how this one at one point was the biggest FPS on the market. And something that this game definitely inspired was the Time Splitters series. I would say it's the same kind of style of a first-person shooter. Of course, my favorite part of this game is possibly the climactic ending where you fight Alec, and it's this very difficult thing where you're in this giant like skybox satellite thing, and essentially what you have to do is take him out, and basically he has this golden gun, so he can basically kill you in one shot. So you have to basically drop down this hole, turn around and shoot him, and it's this very hard, intense moment, especially when you've come so far. And I remember people showing off like their skills in this game back in the day, how it was a big deal back then, essentially. Of course, there are things in this game like body armor, other ammo pickups. Again, there's even snipers in this game, so there's a good array of weapons that you'd expect from a normal kind of FPS experience. And you even have a vehicle section where you drive a tank. Yeah, this game has a lot of things going for it that a lot of people might be surprised at. Again, for the time and for the graphics. And honestly, don't judge it by what you know, how it looks. It's a very fun game just to play. The other thing I like is the animations of some of the characters or enemies in this game. They just look a little bit silly, but I love it when they do the dodge roll. It adds a sense of kind of freakish realism to it, which is really cool. And yeah, you know, the story doesn't really deviate from the Goldeneye movie all that much. They just extend a lot of scenes and pad things out so you get into it. It's funny, I know this is considered with the best FPS on the N64, but for me, I would actually say the follow-up game to this, Tomorrow Never Dies, is actually a much better, a much more fun and fleshed out James Bond game, and especially in the multiplayer component. And in this game, the multiplayer I found was actually very underwhelming, kind of lackluster. Like, oh great, I can put my friends in an arena and shoot them. Like, that's new, I guess, but it's just so very bare bones. And in Tomorrow Never Dies, you have a whole different arsenal of weapons, you know, much more detailed environments, and you have this whole separate series of game modes, from King of the Hill to like you know, like secure the checkpoints or the command centers and download things. It's very complex. And so even though this one has you know, the history of being, you know, the FPS, I would say its sequel on the N64 on the same console actually did better and overshadowed it, but a lot of people just, I guess, don't talk about that one. Also, I love the character animations in this game, how they move. They feel very clunky but lifelike. I don't know, there's something very charming about this game even years later. But yeah, this is still a great game, and it's interesting to see how this was the king FPS at one point, and frankly still is a very well-made game. Anyway guys, with that being said, I'll see you later. Bye.